look at your beautiful space.
Yeah, it's cool. It's like this big castle in Spain. I love it.
Gosh, how amazing, Scott. Where are you in Spain?
There's this place called Bayona. I never have even heard of it until the girl I'm currently dating, she has a bunch of her friends in a city called Vigo, which is nearby. And so we've come here a few times, and then I discovered this house on Airbnb, and I was like, okay, I want to stay there for a little bit. It's super nice. It's like a castle. There's everything's like stone. There's it's just super cool. It's got you can tell it has like a rich history. Everything's really big, big stones. That's what the walls are made out of. So it's like super settled in to the land, and it's kind of it makes you think about like our construction nowadays, like our construction is so full of crap. Like we have drywall that's like filled with chemicals and garbage and everything's so temporary and cheap. Whereas you look at this place and it's like all this like these elements from earth, like wood and stone, and the air is so fresh here because it's on the Atlantic Ocean. So and you can hear the ocean from here and you can see it and everything from the view, it's beautiful. So you're like fully immersed in this natural place, surrounded by construction that's like natural. And all the furniture here is like pretty old school, like wood. And so it's just kind of like I'm enjoying the experience of being connected to like kind of the old ways that things were, before it seems like a lot of the profit motive got in the way of quality, and everything else feels cheap to me now. Like even these, I guess Apple does a better job because they use metal, and then the iPhones have glass, but like overall, our technology is really just kind of meant to expire. Most things are meant to expire, but I think like when they built things like this place back in the day, they weren't meant to expire. They were built to last. I mean, that's what stone does.
Absolutely. And I think if you look at it from a more quantum level, and really analyze the frequency of everything, these synthetic materials disrupt the biorhythms. They disrupt electromagnetic fields. They disrupt our own electromagnetism. It's no different than wearing polyester versus linen.
Right.
Being a house that's built that's, what was that show? Weeds or something, little boxes on the hillside, and they're all made out of ticky tacky, right? And that is not built to last. And how disruptive to our natural rhythms.
Yeah.
What you're experiencing and what you're choosing to drop into antiquity, right?
Mhm.
There's a reason it feels good. It's not interfering with your frequency.
That's right. And it's not only not interfering, it's supporting. Yeah, I've been thinking a lot, Hilda, of your phrase heart coherence. And now in my meditation, I include that verbiage because it really is when that unlocks, it really is kind of the path or the gateway, I guess, to this energy that we're all looking for. I think everybody's looking to feel better in the day and feel brighter and feel more hope and kind of feel vitality. Like there's so many people out there who just are so exhausted, and I think the true path to that is what you talk about, heart coherence, which I think a place like this helps with because you're now like immersed in this and you're like, wait a second, like, oh, it doesn't have to feel flimsy and crappy and there's not always something to fix. In fact, nicks and things on the stone make it feel kind of more real and nice. It doesn't look ugly. Whereas when you have the cheap crap at your house where you get a dent in it or something, you're like, okay, let's patch that up with drywall. And that's because you're constantly having to maintain the cheapness and the quickness and the temporariness of these buildings. And that's exhausting. And I think that our cheap society has become that because a lot of the things we value uh, don't feed the soul and don't have that stability and that sensation of okay, like this is like a nice coherent ride I'm on. Instead, everything's like, yep, you know what? I think I've told you this, but Simran, who's Siri's mom, I remember she was rebuilding the front house at their house, and she started to do all the construction and everything. And one of the things she did was she dug up these like old toilets that were part of like the prior house, and she would take pieces and parts out of the old toilet to put in the new toilet she bought. And I was like, "What are you doing?" And she said, "Because back then they used like metal parts and all this stuff that lasts forever, whereas today it's all this plastic crap that snaps in half, made in China, just probably filled with chemicals." And it matters. Not only does it matter, of course, because the chemicals are seeping into our actual physical bodies, but it matters because you're surrounded by this stuff that just constantly says cheap, cheap, cheap. And plastic is such a big part of that. I can't stand that I can't find glass bottles. It's really hard. And it takes such an immense effort to even just get a glass bottle. And one last quick story, and I want to say hi to Sabra because he joined us, is I was doing this little cartoon once back in the day, and I decided I wanted to like create like a plush toy that was connected to the character of the cartoon. And I was like, okay, I want to do this, but I want to do it like the way that I feel good about it. I want it to be organic materials. I don't want any of this crap. So if you go online right now and you decide you want to make like a plush toy based off of a character you've created, it's really easy to do. You can do it quickly and cheaply, but everything's made of plastic. Okay. Do you know how hard it was for me to find somebody who would manufacture with all organic materials? And I fought with that person forever about everything. I was like, no, not even in the stitching, not even there, not even there. I kept saying everything needs to be organic cotton. I do not want any plastic. And I did all of that, and it was so hard, and I was talking back and forth with them forever. They finally delivered everything, and yes, everything was organic cotton except the filler they filled with that fake cotton crap. And I was like, you guys, it's almost unavoidable. We are surrounded by this stuff. And it gets exhausting. And so you wonder why, of course, people are feeling exhausted. They're just surrounded by so much cheap crap that they're fighting. They're just constantly fighting with it. So, Brog,
I am in love with this podcast because what's so amazing about it is every time we come with completely empty minds, and whatever comes up, I feel like is exactly what is in the collective. It's like this has been my primary metaphor that's been in my mind for the last like 2 weeks, essentially. Is the notion of what time does to things of quality. If you have something of quality and of truth, the when time weaves into it, it becomes more beautiful. If you have something that's cheap and false, when time weaves into it, it disintegrates. And I've been thinking a lot of that in the terms of just the beauty of architecture. That's been one of the main things, but also in human relationship and partnership. I'm in a partnership now that is feels very true. She's driving right here, by the way. We'll have to get her on officially soon. And I'm just thinking about that too. Is like how deeply I long for the weaving of time to go into relationship. As we weave time through this podcast, we get to know each other deeper and deeper, and as time goes on, this podcast becomes more rich. And so that's how we know. I think I've been appreciating the beauty because a lot of the spiritual path is so much about timeless. Find the timeless. That's go beyond birth, beyond death, beyond time. And this last couple of weeks, I've been like, wow, time can be so beautiful.
Mm.
I love that, Sabrag. Today I've been just with people a lot, and I'm also in a relationship, and I'm with like her cousin and all of her friends. And today I gave myself time. I just sat in this beautiful place I'm in. I was in the yard area, just listening to the birds, the ocean, and giving myself actual time. And it felt unbelievable. Not only because of what Hilda and I were just discussing, because I'm surrounded by old style architecture that's built with stone and all that
Yeah.
stuff, but also because like there's so much nature here that is constantly reminding you of that truth that you're talking about. The truth is these things are supposed to be regenerative and supportive. That's what the things
Yeah.
are around us. Everything's regenerating and supporting life.
Yeah.
And it feels incredible when you tap into it. Because so today I was just like, at first I sat out in the yard and I just let myself just kind of sit. I was like, because there's all these things I have to do. I always have a bunch of things on my to-do list. But I was like,
Yeah.
you know what? I'm just going to sit here, and I had tea and I was just like, this is amazing. I put my feet in the grass, and all of a sudden I just like felt like I had to just go, oh, it was so nice. And
Yeah.
then all of the things that are regenerative and supportive surrounding me fueled that, like almost like the trees knew, and all of a sudden the wind picked up, and like so
Uh,
much was there just to be like, I love you, like whispers of I love you, and here's that energy, and here you are, and we're so glad you've joined us, you know? And it just felt so synchronistic and beautiful and perfect that I decided, yeah, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to sit here and do like a whole like hour meditation. And I did that. And it was like, what? I mean, I've been doing a lot of exciting things and fun things out here in Europe, but this was like one of the more exciting, beautiful things. Just sitting alone in this garden, listening to nature and spending that time trying to get back into that coherence. And I feel so connecting to what you said, Sabrag, time was necessary. And that's connected to what Hilda and I were talking about, which is these things that surround you that don't just endure time, but like are fueled as time goes on. Like
yeah. Fueled by
they
time. Yeah.
yeah. So that's I think what we are hoping to connect more to as a society, because everything here in society is based on scarcity and deterioration, you know, and they are deteriorating everything, all these systems, all these institutions, all these buildings, except the ones that were built before this specific society. You know, we're talking about those big churches
Yeah.
or this stone castle I'm in.
So interesting. This week I've been also taking a lot of time for myself, just as you're talking about. And it's so beautiful when you take a break, you have the breakthrough. We have to give ourselves time to take the break and then get in that heart coherent state, or as you talk about, Subrag, the flow state. I mean, that is what flow state is. When you start, your awareness cues into all the magic around you, where then the wind all of a sudden picks up. You're talking about, Scott, and everything around you just seems to be almost in a collaborative effort to make that moment so special. And that is what being in flow state with heart coherence is all about. And the last couple of weeks, I've needed a break. I really needed to step away from people, and it's God. It's been so beautiful. I mean, I've seen patients, but I've kind of pick and choose who I spend time with, and spent a lot of time with the kids. We've been playing. Just I have meditated so much this week, and I started reading the Ethiopian Bible, which has blown my mind, because if we're going to talk about time, this is the original 88 books, not the 66 in the King James. This is the complete. And I really think when you talk about withstanding time, to look at something that we're looking at, like the Ark of the Covenant here. This is the Dead Sea Scrolls, the ancient text that has been hidden and has just been awakened in 2017 in this Bible that made print for our accessibility. And I've been thinking so much about all these monasteries and sanctuaries where these hidden truths have been buried and protected over time. And without these grand structures, with like where you are right now, Scott, these stone buildings built to withstand time, we wouldn't have the sacred and be able to protect what is sacred, what is valuable, what is truth.
Yes, Hilda. And what's nice is it's within us still.
Yeah.
The hard part about and the challenge about today is there's a lot that's built around us that tries to pull us out of it. And that's these systems, that's these bad, poorly made construction things like the sad condos that are cookie cutter and just duplicates of each other. Like a lot of that's like pulling at you outside of what you actually are. So, of course, being surrounded by those environments are going to help you tap right back into it. And so I would hope that people at least have one old church or one old castle or one old something that they can go kind of like sit at or visit so that they can kind of reconnect to how that influences them versus how their current surroundings influence them. You know, everything's based upon sit in your room and watch TV or watch your screens, whatever your screens are. That's what it is today, instead of like I mean, what it was, which so much of what I've learned recent in my recent life, like I'm saying within the last 1 or 2 years, is I've learned that wow, our far away past, like our ancestors, they had a lot more answers than we've been told. And they had a lot more technology than we understand. And it didn't look like iPhones, but it looked a lot more like coherent with the surroundings that we are, like not ignoring it. You know, when we're staring at our screens, we're basically ignoring the biggest show, which is just right in front of us. What is that gigantic fusion thing in the sky that's giving us free energy? You know, what are all those other ones that look like little sparkly, beautiful things at night? What is the incredible little bug that crawls onto your yoga mat if you have it laying on the grass? Like, what is that thing? That's the real show. And these screens have pulled us away from that. Whereas I think the ancestors who were more tuned into this, they built technology to amplify it and to commune with it. And it seems to be purposefully hidden from us. Like they want to erase that. They want to just say, oh, it's myth. A lot of these things are myth, and they're just religious beliefs. And they do say like respect it as a religious belief, but they do put it on a shelf in this area that's kind of like patting your kid on the head and being like, yeah, that's just a story. Whereas maybe it's not just a story. And if it is a story, it's an important one because it's kind of connecting you to all these things that we've lost. And I think these things matter a lot.
Which is why they're being kept hidden from us. Because if we knew the truth, we wouldn't need organized religion. We wouldn't need the banking system. We wouldn't need to go to Target and buy clothes, that's made of plastic, right? We wouldn't need to buy plastic water bottles. We would have everything at our fingertips and the knowledge within us. Right, that's why they don't want us to know any of this stuff. And that's why they're trying to shut down the biorhythms naturally through the fibers we wear, the houses we live in, everything, even the way the air flows through these new modern builds. Everything is just, like you said, locked in, contained. It's like all what's organic and natural is being stripped away from us so that we don't awaken, so that we don't feel invigorated with that light within.
Yeah. And I think that one of the traps I fall in, and I know you guys do too, is we get angry about it and we want to like fight, But I think the only way we can overcome this power that seems to not want us to really tune in to what we're talking about is just like if it's something within yourself that's blocking you, you have to look at it all with forgiveness and love. So you have to like, for me anyway, I have so much anger towards like the banking systems and the governments. Those two to me are just like these evils that have created so much chaos and hurt so many people. And I have to look at those people and be like, I don't want to hurt you back. I forgive you. I love you. And because if you start to break it down into something that's logical so that you can get there, it's like these are just humans. That's what it seems. I don't know about if they're lizard people or we don't need to go there. But like for now, I'm thinking these are just humans. They're afraid. They feel like there's scarcity. They feel like they need to do this. And how sad for them. That's empathy. How sad for them that they feel like they need to take to live. They need to steal to live. They need to hurt to live. That's a sad case, and that's something that you can empathize with or feel compassion towards.
Right. I was listening this morning to Greg Braden. I'm a huge fan of Greg Braden. I've been listening to a ton of Braden and Alan Watts in the last couple of weeks. But something he said this morning I'd never heard, and it just blew my mind. So he's talking about this, all it takes is the square root of 1% of a city, of a population, to create peace, to shift the frequency from hate or anger to forgiveness and compassion. The square root of 1%. So if we do the math, and I did the math this morning, so we have 8.1 billion people on this planet. You take the square root of 1% of 8.1 billion people, and my math could be wrong, but I'm not very good at math, but but I think it did make sense. 9,000 people is all it takes on the planet to shift these energies. But how we do that is by aligning with the frequency of feeling it has already happened. So feeling that these people are already forgiven to the point of no longer needing to take. What if enough of us felt that, we could practice this meditation, we could really get into the embodiment of what that forgiveness, that peace, that love, that new earth that we talk about, the frequencies of that harmony. What if we really could access that and embody it, and enough of us do it around the world at the same time, we might actually be able to change this world. Pretty cool thought.
That's an amazing. It's amazing thought. I think it's true. I really think it's true. I think one of the things I was talking about this morning with Alethea is we were kind of processing some people in our lives who are transmitting very, what you could call, negative energies, and just contemplating and being with those feelings. What came to mind to me is the profound gratitude that emerges from having the contrast of having those negative experiences versus what I'm having now, or what's the potential to have. So had we not had all of that darkness, all of that shadow, all of that insanity, I don't think I would be in such a profound state of gratitude for that which is true. And so for me, what my realization of the morning is just gratitude for it all.
Oh, I love
That's
that.
right. That's right. There was like some account I follow that posted, I think today or yesterday, about why do we suffer, and it was pretty nicely written. And this particular account like takes quotes from the Bible, and it had quite a few examples of why we suffer, and they were all pointing to what you're talking about, Sabrag. Is it really does steer you in the way of gratitude. And if this is all some kind of weird God dream or something, and we are all kind of the center of our stories, what pieces are we putting together that are going to give us a leg up on whatever is next? So if this is a puzzle, you're looking for the impossible, right? Because puzzles look impossible when you have them laying in front of you. And what is the impossible? I think the impossible right now to me is making the world change, making people in power be benevolent, or making the world understand, all 8 billion people, that they are the power, and empowering them to receive that love that is their inheritance. That seems impossible. It feels impossible to me. It's very overwhelming to me when I think about that idea, because I think, well, what about all the tanks and guns and rich people and poison, and look what they did, and they killed Charlie Kirk, and so that feels impossible. But I think that that's the point, because this is, I think, an experience that has purpose. And I think just like when you throw a bunch of puzzle pieces on that table, there's a purpose, even though it looks impossible. So it is nice to tap back into that gratitude, because it reminds you of the purpose, or one does that to the other. If you feel the purpose, you feel the gratitude. If you feel the gratitude, you feel the purpose. And then you just get to work, I guess. You get to work. And you get to do things. That's the other like big trick. Everything's in language. It's not I have to, I get to. I get to go do breath work and meditate so that I can try to tap more into heart coherence. Why? Because it's so much easier when you're in that state. When you're not in that state, it's completely chaotic. All you do is feel afraid. You feel like your things are scarce. You have no idea how anything's going to work. You think you're going to die. It's kind of like being on an airplane. You think you're going to die if you start thinking about it too much. You're like, what? I'm floating, above in the sky in this like metal tube. Like, this is insane. So you can't think about that. You have to like do the heart coherence. And there's this joke that I think a comedian said about the only reason planes survive is because enough people are praying that they don't crash. And I almost feel like that's real. Like I know that math is real and engineering is real, but I almost feel like that the essence of what that comedian is saying is real. It's like we need to believe so much with our hearts that this is the flow, that I'm meant to be from one destination to the other or whatever, that we arrive there. Otherwise, it's complete chaos.
I really love the image that you're saying of like the puzzle pieces. That really taps on one of my primary life philosophies, which I actually was actually articulated by Jeff Bezos in the best way. I mention it all the time. Stay steadfast on the vision and flexible on the details. So the puzzle is, you know what the puzzle is going to look like at the end. You have the picture of it, and you know where you're going. But when all of those pieces are scattered on the table, you have no idea like how you're going to navigate. You just got to kind of look for two things that fit together, and maybe you just find you got your first piece, and then you just keep doing it one after the other. And I think as I've been contemplating this notion of time as we're talking about it in terms of these things that are gathering value over time through truth. The flip side of that, which I've also been really experiencing the value of, is the lightness and the spontaneity of being in the moment and delivering in the moment. So I think that's where like the whole social media thing is, and what I've been working on with my business and my own art is to say, okay, I'm going to give myself 2 hours to do something. I'm going to do a creative act. I'm going to do a stitch or whatever. I'm going to find something else. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to post it right away. And that's capturing that spontaneous act in the moment without me thinking about it being like this heavy, detailed, long term kind of thing. And because I know in the music projects that we were working on recently, that was one of the pitfalls of it. I was like, okay, I'm going to go into the details of this. I want this to be great. This is going to be the foundation for everything I'm going to be doing. And I just like went so deep. And in the end, it turned out to be dead and flat. And because I had put so much time and effort to it, my ears had become fatigued. And just the end product of it was just out of balance and flat. So I think both of these things have their like sort of the pro sides and their negative sides. Like one thing, thinking of like the timelessness or over time, it it can be it can be infused with beauty and with depth from that timelessness. But the other hand, if you think about it too much, it can become too heavy and could become too stagnant. And I think also these days we have the sort of tendency for the fast produce and it produce a lot of junk. But at the same time, I think in order to navigate into this next level, we do need a sort of lightness, agility, flexibility, spontaneity, and not to be too fixed on a plan. To be able to be open and dynamic, such that if the we keep the eyes in the big picture, but as things change along the way, we don't have to be too rigid and like sticking to that plan that we thought we were going. So I think the time our relationship to time has to be both. We have to see the big picture. We have to think of the depth uh, over the long term. But at the same time, I think we're being forced into this place where we have to be a lot more nimble and spontaneous and flexible and in the moment. And we can do something that's just for that moment and then let it go, and just for that moment and let it go. And so I think what's happening now is we're getting both, and we need both.
Yep. Yeah, we need both. It's like we need both our mind and our hearts. However, you need to know the kind of what is it called? Like the priority list or whatever. Like the heart
Yeah.
rules. You have to bow to the heart. And so far, what we've witnessed is the brain rules. If you remember
Yeah.
Futurama, that cartoon, whenever they preserved like the past uh, characters like Nixon or whatever, they always had their head as though that's like what it is to be like Nixon in the futures. You just have his brain, but that's like not it. That's like thinking that your all the content of your iPhone is in the local memory or something, and it's not. I mean, the content of your iPhone is in the cloud, just like you are. You're somewhere in a cloud. And if you want the essence, you need the heart, you need the brain, you need our system, and our system is so beautiful. And I think you need the body. I mean, the body is there to regulate everything. The body keeps score, as that famous book says, and it is there to support you when you can't process an emotion. It goes into your body, because your body's there to always support you. Your body is incredible. So we need it all, like you said, Sabrag, but we also need to know the priority list. And
Yeah.
the heart rules. The
Mhm.
mind serves the heart, and the mind is absolutely wonderful in taking commands from the heart. So the heart says, we're meant to be in Alaska. I don't know why. And then the brain is like, okay, well, for that to work, we need, an airplane ticket. We need a certain amount of money in the bank account. We need to like bring warm clothes. Like the brain's great at the logistics because that's what it is. It's logical and linear. The heart is way better at uh, the big picture stuff, at the where I'm meant to be and how I'm meant to be.
So I have this theory that memory is formed in the heart. And in Chinese medicine, the heart is the emperor. And actually, when we are developing in utero, the heart is beating before the brain is even formed. So the heart really does precede the mind. And, this is where I think you look at all this cognitive decline being I mean, it is an epidemic. It's as bad as diabetes. And I don't think it's natural. I don't think it's age related. And sure, we can argue from a physical standpoint. I do have a theory that statins are contributing to that because blocking cholesterol from entering the brain. And what is the brain made up of? Glucose and cholesterol, fat and sugar. So, you don't want to block that. The body's functions are so critical and they are so synergistic. So when we start congesting the liver and, then the liver isn't functioning and then our GI gets all backed up and we get angry because the emotion of the liver is anger, and then you're not releasing and letting go and purging with the colon. And that's, anyway, we could talk about that till the cows come home. But when you come back to memory and the heart and how we code our lives, how we code our journeys from how we perceive them in the moment. And this is why being in the moment is so freaking important. Because if you're not in the moment, you're not coherent. You're not going to assimilate the information into a memory from that moment. And this is something I witness in people over and over again. They don't remember chunks of their life. And of course, I work with people in, trauma, people have cancer, autoimmune. A lot of people are very sick who come to me. So they have a history of something tough, something brutal, something painful that they have navigated. And in those times, a lot of people shut down. They shut their heart down. So people don't remember. So they have to go into past life regression or hypnosis or breath work or psychedelic journeys to access these memories that are buried deep within. And they think it's in the brain, but it's in the heart. And when we truly open our hearts and we understand what that means and how that feels, the floodgates, Pandora's box opens. And this is why people don't want to do the shadow work because it's a lot, but it can be so beautiful. And if everybody did it, I don't think we'd have people in memory care facilities. I don't think dementia and Alzheimer's would be on the rise. I think we would really be able to recalibrate everybody's systems from the mind, body, spirit perspective.
You're so right. You're so right, Hilda. I mean, first of all, that's so true. So many people I know, they have huge chunks of their lives that they don't remember. It's because we're all broken and traumatized in so many ways, but broken is maybe too harsh because we're not broken. We're all capable of self-healing. There we go. Sabrag's got his horse. Beautiful. Um, and they do need what you described as all these past life regression, all that stuff, because we're our bodies are not trained to handle. So, like, one of the things that I've learned in Kundalini yoga is you really train your body to handle difficult things on your nervous system. So, when you're like doing breath of fire and in stretch pose, holding your legs up, holding your upper body up, and like breathing like a maniac, that is preparing your nervous system for big trials. And I think we've talked about this before, but I think we've, of course, lost all of these rites of passages from our past that we used to do. And they've instead become like what a bar mitzvah is these days, where it's just a bunch of gifts and a party, instead of like preparing our bodies and our nervous system for these things that are difficult in life. And when you have that equipment and that tool, then you're able to face these difficult memories with more grace and more calmness. And so, unfortunately, almost all of us are not prepared for it. So, what we do have are other tools that are outside of our bodies, which is like, a hypnotherapist or an EMDR therapist or a horse or it's such a beautiful horse, Sabrag. And we have what is another one? Oh, like mushrooms. Mushrooms help you. Mushrooms help like coat you with a protective force field so that you can go visit those memories without your entire system shutting down. Sabrag, talk so I can.
Hello, welcome from Horseland. Hello from Horseland. So beautiful. These mystical beings. Wow. I mean, speaking of heart coherence, just as a side note, the heart. I mean, we were talking about this before in other podcasts. As I'm living here more and more on a regular basis and getting tuned into the energy fields of these horses, their hearts are just so massive. And in the circus show that we do, there's these acts where they'll get like 5 or 6 or 8 of these big draft horses just galloping around the arena all together and all at once, and the power and the beauty, like I cry every time. Hold on one second. Oop, wait. The horse just like knocked my setting. Can you still see me?
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, there we go. Okay, I don't know. Okay, I see. Okay, it's just different. Okay. um yeah. They
Adorable.
just the synchrony of the heart like beating all as one, like the audience, the performers, the horses. It's pure. I've never experienced a bigger heart opening than in these shows with all of these horses galloping as one in front of the audience. There's a lot of people who talk about, like the PETA people talk about like, animals performing in circuses. Well, that's not like that. This is spiritual transformation stuff happening here with these beautiful beings. I mean, they love this. They're so proud to perform. They're so proud to work with us, and they just love it. I mean, these are just so amazing.
Well, I love to see
Um,
them with no reins. It's really sweet.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, some of the acts that we do in the show are actually called Liberty acts, where the horses have no reins, and you're dancing with them free in the arena, and they're it's a dance between the sort of the trainer and the horse, and it's really really amazing.
Yeah.
Look at
And
these.
and what a good metaphor, for us when you think about the breaking of the horses, that you want to break their
Yeah,
spirit so that they conform. And certainly what Hilda and I were talking about at the beginning is that's the kind of spirit of what's happening to us in society is they're trying to break us so that we
yeah,
conform. And they're really literally wanting to put reins on us. And they have.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
humans have more sophisticated language with each other than horses with humans, I think. And which
Mhm.
means, we can speak English to each other, etc. I'm not saying horses can't speak to each other, but I'm not even saying
Yeah,
horses can't speak to us. I'm saying we can't speak to them in a sophisticated way. So what I'm trying to say
but
is,
we can. That's yeah.
yeah, no, I know we
But
can.
we yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying we're not doing that. So what
Well,
I'm, yeah, oh,
Well,
you're,
there's of the horses without any reins. There's a guy named James French, and he has some courses out there called Trust Technique. He started this method which is just about being present with horses. It works with any animals, and also works with humans too, but animals are most receptive to it. And basic technique is you just put yourself in presence, but in relationship to the animal. So instead of communicating through language, you just come into your sensory system, how the feeling on your skin, the feeling of your breath, the sounds of the outside of the birds chirping, and then you do it in complete, and you let the mind, the thinking of the mind, come to a minimal rate, as it can, and you're just in sense perception. You're just in the present moment with the animals, and you do that in relationship to them. And what happens is trauma heals. Like you can have these animals which are completely traumatized for their entire life, and you're there and you're present and you just listen. And all of a sudden, the trauma goes. And what happens with James, who's like really deep into this, is the animal will start to fall asleep. Their eyes will get heavy. They'll start yawning, and they'll just lie on the ground, which is essentially unheard of in any other kind of training method. And then when that level of trust is established, is they'll just, you can just think something, and it's not thought through. You don't think things through language. You think things through image. And then what they'll do is the horse will just follow him wherever he goes. So there's videos of him you can see online. James French Trust Technique. He's galloping through the forest with a whole herd of horses, no reins, no ropes, no anything. They just follow him wherever he goes because the and so basically what he observed in the herd of horses, which I think is true with humans as well, in the herd of horses, there's always the alpha male, the one that's the strong protector and all of that stuff. And everybody thinks that the alpha male is actually the leader of the herd, but it's not. The leader of the herd is the old mare, the old wise mare, who's the calmest, the peaceful, with the most, and who's the most stable. And so she is actually the lead herd. And so when he recognized that, here's the one. Oh, it's so beautiful. Mwah. When he recognized that, then he realized that, oh, all I have to do is I become peaceful. And then through his inner peace, he's able to have complete control over an entire herd of horses. And it's not even control, it's just heart coherence. And so, and he leads the herd of horses in a leadership role through heart coherence. It's not through force, not through coercion, not through anything. And they're just in this complete, profound union. And it takes time to communicate on that level. I've been noticing as I've been living here for the last couple of months that there's a sort of a subtle that the nerves have to be in tune with each other. So you can't just come in from another space or another sphere, another modality of being. Time to settle into the sort of the very subtle, soft, receptive, supple kind of communication. And then when that happens, the communication is absolutely profound. It's beyond words, beyond time, beyond space, and it's just the most beautiful, amazing, loving, heart-opening kind of thing, imaginable. I mean, look at these. They're so beautiful. Look at how beautiful this is.
Well,
Yes.
they
Mwah.
they connect us with everything in nature, right? I mean,
Yeah.
when you have that
Yeah.
telepathic connection with an animal, and it's so obvious when with a
Yeah.
horse, right? The story that you're sharing, it's an obvious
Yeah.
telepathic connection, right? I don't know what else we can call it.
Yeah.
Obviously, you could talk about
Yeah.
heart coherence, but there's something telepathic, and everybody
Yeah.
has it. But the animals can teach
Yeah.
us, and that's the thing that we forget. We're so disconnected from the natural world now. And that's, I think,
Yeah.
what Scott was saying about, his attraction to being in this beautiful space that with stone walls and wood that's natural, and to,
Yeah.
connect to what is not is when really our natural biorhythms. And I think this is why they say that children who are raised with animals have a higher, not only emotional, like EQ, but they have a higher IQ. Their cognitive function
Wow.
is actually higher from being raised
Yeah.
with animals. And that can be, it wasn't like dogs specifically or horses specifically. It's just animals because they
Hmm.
are.
Wow. Yeah, there's a whole other like domain of communication intelligence that's required to work with animals, and none of that gets trained in school. I mean, not you. I mean, you spend hours and hours, 6, 8 hours a day in school, and you're working just as such a small part of our intelligence, not our spiritual intelligence, not our emotional, not our energetic, not our relational, our compassion, and I mean, it's just, and that's, uh, hopefully things are shifting step by step.
I mean, I honestly think it comes down, when it comes to education, it's
Hmm.
parents. Parents have to
Yeah,
change their ways. Parents have to stop
yeah,
wasting the time on the phone and wearing the busy badge and being
yeah.
all caught up and doing what's convenient and, opting into the convenience. Like that is what the controllers, are banking on,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
our consent of what is convenient. They're expecting us to be lazy.
Mhm.
And we are. I mean,
Yeah,
on a cellular level, we are cellularly lazy. This is why the body
yeah.
needs sugar so much, because if you give your cells sugar, it's giving your body instant fuel. It doesn't have to convert whatever nutrients it gets. It doesn't have to do any work for it. It's just,
Hmm.
here's some energy,
Yeah.
real quick, cheap fuel. And I think
Mm.
that's the danger of the convenience culture that we live in, especially in the Western world. And, people aren't thinking about building a quality home. How fast can I get it done? That's all people think about.
Hmm.
How quickly. And this is the
Yeah.
problem with education. It's, we've got these kids locked in these boxes, essentially, with the worst lighting, no airflow. They're reading really indoctrination bullshit, in my opinion. Pardon my French, but
Yeah.
it's crap what they're reading. They're not reading classics. They're not being taught, rich vocabulary and to memorize a speech or a poem or, Shakespeare or something like we had to do. They're
Hmm.
just being taught to be busy little worker bees for 8 hours, and then
Mm.
they get the sports, and then it's 3 hours of homework after that. It's mindless work. Meanwhile, it's convenient
Mm.
for mom and dad because mom and dad are so busy. So it keeps everybody,
Yeah.
mom and dad have to work a lot more too, and both parents are working.
Yeah.
The system is so broken. And it's why when Scott said, it's like we're all broken, and maybe that's too harsh of a word. I'm not so sure that it is, because I think it does break down our biorhythms, our intuition, our desire for connection.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I grew up like that basically. I mean, I was put in. I mean, I love my parents. They gave me the best life possible, and I know that I chose it on some level. And it's no criticism to them. It was just the culture that I was sort of brought up in. Is I was basically put as in babysitter, after 3 months of being alive. And I had babysitters after school, and my parents were all working, and I ate fast food essentially, like either fast food or microwave frozen meals from from Costco or as Price Club back then, or Trader Joe's or whatever, and home cooked meal like once a week, and but at the same time, I know my parents love me more than anything, and I know that they did absolutely the best that they possibly could. It was just in their mindset, like that was sacrifice all that and do as much as earn as much money as possible so we can do as much as we can for our kids. And I did get a lot of opportunities. I got to kind of try everything that I wanted in terms of sports and theater and arts and creativity, and they valued my experience with that over just the time of being together in a lot of ways. And so I don't know what's right or wrong in that regard. I feel like at this point in my life, I think that every single minute experience that I've ever had is vitally important and is all coming together in one. I don't know how I'd even function without any of the experiences that I've ever had. Like each one feels just I love these horses so much. Oh my gosh, they're the best. Um, So it's hard to say. Maybe that was necessary for the time, necessary for that era, for this generation, for some kind of like transitional, transformational thing. And sometimes we need to cast the net far and wide and look at the broad things and try all these different things and go out there and then once we get the broader scope of all of these vast range of experiences and all the things that work and don't work, then we can kind of like focus in and hone in. And I know like where I'm with humans right now, like there's I've traveled the world and met all kinds of people from all kinds of cultures and all that stuff. And now I'm finding I'm really enjoying just being with a very sort of, I'm not antisocial, but there's just a few humans in my life who have become really, really, really precious, and I don't need to do all that stuff anymore. So maybe we've sort of cast the net out, and we've seen the world, and we've tried all these things, and we've sort of come back with a new perspective on a new range of values. And so maybe that was necessary for a time, and now it's time to sort of come back to ourselves and coalesce with, but same but different than we were before.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think you're absolutely right that on a generational level, we did need to experience what we did. But that also
Yeah.
means that now we, because we have the knowledge of that experience,
Yeah.
we are the
Yeah.
ones we've been waiting for. We are the ones
Yeah.
to make these changes. Because I will say,
Absolutely.
as a mother of four children from ages almost 2 and 14, the way this world is operating now, the configuration on a cultural, like
Yeah.
mass scale, is not going to sustain life. It's
Yeah.
not, these children, they don't know, they're not being taught anything practical. They're not being taught anything spiritual. Their nervous systems are in a
Mm.
constant state of dysregulation. They're passively being entertained all the time.
Yeah.
No one's teaching them to go within. It's an extreme version of what we experienced. It's so much more extreme. The pendulum has swung so far, and I really think it's up to us
Mm.
to get the momentum for that backswing.
Yeah, no, I would say, Hilda, on that point, it's like they are being bombarded with things that are cheap and give the satisfaction in the moment. And unfortunately, they're cheap and loud. So it's like the cheapness of the buildings we were talking about earlier, but like they look really pretty from the facade and they give you this instant, there's a lot of like, I travel so much, so I get a lot of different Airbnbs, and like, sometimes an Airbnb looks unbelievable on camera, and then you get there and it's like the wood floors were actually like linoleum and it's like plastic crap and like everything's fake. And you're like, oh my God, this is just a cheap trick that looks really good, will Instagram well, will be great, on images and, some sort of like magazine, but like it's crap and it doesn't satiate the soul at all. And it almost takes an extreme movement back to simplicity and I know it's on our shoulders to do the work, our own internal work, but I also think it's going to happen through God's grace and through nature anyway, because people will naturally flush it out. If you put toxins in your system, a lot of your immune system will naturally flush it out. The only issue is it's so overwhelming to a lot of these people that they, first of all, don't even know it's happening because they're just in shock from it. And then they also can't even see one way out because it's like a tidal wave on them, and us too. I mean, like sometimes I get totally caught up and overwhelmed. I mean, how many times have you sat down to do your meditations or things like that and you're like, God, I've really fallen off course this week, like I can't even feel that tune, all the time. I'm like, I just can't feel it. Ugh, my light just keeps knocking out, whatever. So it is just kind of, but I think it's both, like everything we always say on this podcast. It's both. It's going to be us, and it's also going to be the natural forces of bringing that pendulum back. But it's important to recognize the first step towards any resolution is recognizing there's a problem, and that is such a big problem right now. Is the cheapness and the quickness uh, of these traps. So you've got your iPad with really colorful, loud sounds, or you've got the nice park, that has like birds chirping. The iPad in the moment is so much more attractive. And then the algorithms that get you addicted are so much more attractive than nature. But they do not give you what we talked about in the before, which is just sustainable, regenerative, healing power. They instead are very draining. They're so draining. And this is why most people are like, I need coffee nonstop and I need, they just constantly are so tired.
But this is the whole plan. I mean, I've just come to this point at this, there's, to me, it's undeniable. call me, yes, I'm tinfoil crown here, right? But I just undeniable. When you look at it from every perspective you can, from the fact that there's coffee shops in every corner of every street, you know what I mean? All the conveniences that we could ever need to fix immediate problem. Take an Advil for a headache or a Tylenol, right? There's there now you've got this semaglutide, the GLP-1, so you don't even have to lose the weight yourself. You just take this magic thing, and God only knows what the long-term side effects are going to be. But people go for what's quick and easy, and you could say cheap, right? I mean, it's not necessarily cheap I think I don't know. I've got my opinions of what all of these quick fixes really are going to do long term. I think it's going to cost an enormous amount of money, which comes back to the agenda because follow the money. It's why we are being kept in a constant state of overwhelm, fatigue, and sickness. And the only way we're going to break this cycle is waking up. But you have to go through your journey yourself. Obviously, we can't wake anybody up. I mean, trying to wake somebody up is like pouring the ocean into a teacup. That's an Alan Wattsism. And he's absolutely right. There's so much when you go down the rabbit hole. There's so much information. It's overwhelming. And I think so many people are just choosing to be the ostrich, to stick the head in the sand and just say, la, 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 la. I'd rather not wake up.
But this is where, yeah, so this is where that compassion comes in and forgiveness comes in. Is like these people are just overwhelmed, and it's really hard and it's very frustrating because we encounter a lot of people every day that makes life difficult and frustrating. But when you, on an individual basis, know their stories, then all you do is love them because you're like, wow, oh, you grew up like that. Oh, you weren't exposed to these healthy healing things. I can think of my own life and how lucky I was that I ran into Guru Prem. And I'll never forget, I was so privileged to see the first yoga class I ever saw. And I just saw it in such a beautiful setting overlooking the ocean. And I was like, what is that? I want to try that. And that's what made me try it. So I never take credit for any of the stuff. Some people get to have it, some people don't. We don't know why. That's as mysterious as saying, why was I born in America and not in Iraq? I don't know why. So you look at these people with compassion and love, and you also with humility, and you have to be super humble. You're like, I'm not like any better or smarter or better, anything, and you say, all I do really is I hope and wish that they ask me. That's it. Because I've learned if you try to preach or tell them, it's over. Everything's over. You're the enemy. If you try to preach or tell someone how to live or how to fix, you're the enemy. Oh, fuck you. You're so much better, holier than thou, guru guy. Okay. You need them to ask. And I'm with one of my girlfriend's cousin. He's from Ukraine also, and he's having all these back issues and all this stuff, and he was asking me advice, and I just love that because then I can very easily that's like them opening the gate and asking, please come inside and allow me and help me tidy up. And I'm like, great, thank you for the invitation. This is my favorite thing to do because I feel useful and I feel like I can really do something here. And so I taught him some core exercises, some yoga things and all that, and he seems receptive and it's really sweet. But you have to wait. Like I just said about the first step towards any resolution is recognizing there's a problem. The person has to say, this is a problem. And one of the things I said to him was, it's really about a choice once you recognize the problem. The choice is like, is it a life to you to do a bunch of like boring maintenance? Like, is that a life? Because some people might look at my life and they might say, well, a lot of your life isn't living because you're going and doing yoga, you're meditating, you're doing breath exercises, you're doing this like every day. Like, that's not living. They might say, just living spontaneously and jumping on a motorcycle and taking a road trip through South America. That's living, right? And so like I found a balance in my life where I can do that, the road trip in South America on a motorcycle, but I can also stop at hotels on certain days that I know is important for me to stretch and to do breath work and do my actual work that earns income or whatever. Actual work with quotes. So I've recognized the balance is important to me because here's what I've realized is my priority, back to the priority list thing, like the heart rules kind of thing. It's all about priorities. The priority to me is that every day I feel good. Like I want to feel good. So I could go do a South American road trip spontaneously without my yoga and stuff, but I know that I'll feel exhausted, I'll be cranky, I'll feel weird like spikes of energy because I drank Coca-Cola, and then I'll feel crash because I'm like, what? And if I was like drinking alcohol and I feel gross because I'm like a little like getting pudgy or something, or I don't know, like that would not I would still be doing that trip and I could still take the photos and do all that cool stuff, but I wouldn't feel good every day. The way I feel good every day is like by committing to this stuff that looks boring to the outsider. If there was a movie made about my life, most of it would be boring. It's like, what's he doing? Oh, he's sitting alone and he's just like whispering weird mantras to himself. Like that's most of my life. And it's boring as shit, but it really feeds me and it gives me energy and makes me feel good. So I told him, I'm like, you have to make that choice. And there was like this episode of Rick and Morty where it's Pickle Rick. It's one of the funniest episodes, and they go sit with a therapist in the cartoon, and the therapist basically says the same speech where she says you sort of have to make a choice. She's like it's not sexy to brush your teeth every morning and every night, but then you don't need to have like two teeth being replaced all the time and all this pain. And she's like, but we all get to make the choice. Maybe that you'd literally rather die than be in that boring routine. And you just have to respect that about people. Some people would literally rather die than be part of that boring routine. Some people would literally rather be dead than do the stuff that I do to feel good. And I have to respect that because I understand what I do is a lot. It's a lot of stuff. And someone would rather die. But I personally believe, and I can't prove it because we're all different and we're all individuals, I think we all have our own little cocktail that if we committed to it, we would feel as good as I feel. And I don't think it has to look like me. I think some people naturally don't have to really do all the shit I have to do. I grew up with all sorts of weird trauma and a crazy household and all that. So I have to do certain things to get me out of that. And that's not for everybody. Maybe someone just needs to go sit with a horse like Sabrag for 10 minutes every day and they get the same benefits as my hours of work. And great. But I want people to go and discover that so that they can feel good without the crap that's being sold them because society has very little to offer in the long term. It has short, cheap tricks that are cute and fun, but they really, at the end of the day, and you're sitting on your deathbed, it's not the things that society gave you you're sitting thinking about.
100%. I teach these master classes once a month, and I have room for 14 people. And we do, I channel the whole time. Sometimes it gets really wild, but we do activated breathing, we do somatic yoga, and then I channel a meditation. And it really is more like an astral travel for people. And I've had several people say the most exciting experience of my life was dead sober in that room, just breathing. And they can't believe it. It's like this like absolute epiphany. Like I've done all these drugs, I've been all these concerts, I've traveled all these countries, I've done all this stuff, but nothing felt better than that morning that I woke up, chugged a bunch of water, skipped the unhealthy breakfast, ate something, had an apple, came to your class, sweated, breathed, cried, laughed, and it was like really that simple. So I think people are like think that it's like you said, boring. Well, the only journey is within. I have the most exciting time of my life when I'm trying to fall asleep and I start, getting lucid. Like, how much fun is that? That's so awesome. And so while other people may think it looks boring, you're just sitting in silence by yourself. Dude, it is so profoundly cool to be inside of this incredible human mind when you tap into the expansion of consciousness and all the potential. But what people don't want to do, it's not about this sitting and the being boring or the giving up the bagel for the apple. It's they don't want to not have the convenience. They don't want to get out of the familiarity of what is just their norm, right? It's that breaking the habit of what's comfortable, even if they're uncomfortably comfortable, right? And that's where, I'm in my profession and I've done this for 25 years now. It's so hard because, I can't convince anybody on the internet of anything. I gave up my YouTube channel. I was kicked off TikTok. Um, and now, I've got the benefit of people coming to me seeking help. So I get to coach people. I will tell you, I have 400 patients in my practice, and it grows every week. There's not two people alike who have the same protocol. Not two people who have the same protocol. Everyone's breakfast is different. Everyone's smoothie is different. Everyone's activity practices are different. And so you're absolutely right, Scott. There is a cocktail for everybody, and it is individual and it is unique to them, but they have to want to find it.
As you were talking, and Sabrag, I'll defer to you in a second here, but something came up, which was that uh, building is boring. Like the building part, a lot of times for people is boring, but then the building itself, if you really spent all those, some of those churches were built over lifetimes. So the people building them didn't even have the benefit of seeing what they built, and the end result, though, is something miraculous like those old style churches that, if you've ever walked into them in Europe and things, are unbelievable. And so the building process of like finding the quarry and doing all the rock structures it's so boring and tedious because, okay, you did that for one stone, now you have to do it for 10,000 more. What? I have to sit here and do the same process 10,000 times before I can build a church like that? And the answer is yes, but then you get the church. But if you subscribe to what today's society is doing, like we were talking about earlier, you get the stucco, drywall, cheap, crappy building that does nothing for you but take from you. So the trade-off is like not even negotiable to me and where I sit today. But I understand and have compassion for and empathize with people who are still under the illusion that their cheap condo is doing something for them. It gives them shelter, but you just said comfortably uncomfortable, or the Pink Floyd lyric, comfortably numb, right? So they're like, yeah, you're comfortable, but so what? You're also comfortable when you take the Tylenol and don't feel the headache, but you still have the headache. And it's gonna mess you up big time. So it's so important because when you do get the church, it's unbelievable because I think I've reached certain points in my life where I felt the church within. And it's unbelievable. It's like singing things into existence. Unbelievable, just like, wow, what? This is what it is to be alive. Uh, but that took so much work and so many years and all this stuff. And when I started, I didn't necessarily know that this is the path I was going to be on. I remember when I bought my first yoga mat after seeing that class, the class called to me because it was just so perfect looking and I was in a really dark place in my life. And I was like, I just need that. I need to like lay on a floor and do stretching. And I bought my first yoga mat and I thought, I'm probably going to use this once and it's going to sit in my closet forever. That's what I thought when I bought it. I wasn't some yogi. I couldn't touch my toes. I was all tight and crazy. And I bought it at Big Five, Hilda, if you know where that is in LA. So it's like this cheap, like sports store. So I bought one of those really cheap yoga mats. And I ended up tearing that thing up. Like it broke because I used it every day. I got so into it. And that, again, is back to that thing of I don't know why I was born in America versus Iraq. I don't know why that called to me and that felt so good to me and how I got so addicted to it so quick. So I don't expect anyone else to be that exact path, but I do like to share that story so people understand, like, I wasn't some yogi guru ever. In fact, I was made fun of when I started doing this stuff by my entire family and by all my friends. They're like, what's up with you? But I needed it and I just kept doing it. And then it slowly grew. It doesn't have to be like, okay, now I'm going to do yoga every day for 1 hour. It doesn't have to be that. Just start like with 10 minutes per week and see how that feels. And do you need more? Do you want more? Do you crave more? Good. Okay, then try more of it. Or do you hate it? Don't do it. It doesn't have to be that. You don't have to look like a guru. You can look like a lot of things. Sabrag.
Yes. What do you have to say about that, Renata? Hmm? What do you have to say? Um, I think what's been coming to my mind as you all have been talking and listening is the medium is the message, and or the medium is so important in the conveyance of the message. And I think before the screens and screen time and external media, we had the screen of the inner experience. And so the inner experience is so deeply stimulated by these things of like spending life like decades or lifetimes making a church, because it's not about the result, it's about what's appearing on the inner screen, which is this deep level of satisfaction. And now that our attention has been withdrawn from the inner world to the external screen, we always do things that look good on screen. So like whatever we're doing that we're trying to, like, I can't convey, like I was talking with Alethea the other day, was it this morning or yesterday or something, about fun, and almost feeling like a fear that we're not having enough so-called fun, not going out and drinking and partying and going out and doing these things. But actually I am ecstatically stimulated just by being present with her, being present with the horses. I mean, I know we're talking kind of against coffee, but also drinking a cup of coffee or two, um, and not even like externally like looking like anything is happening per se. That it wouldn't look good on screen at all. But the inner feeling when the inner screen is awakened and the attunement is to the inner world, and the blockages are cleared and the energy is flowing, certain things like you were saying, Hilda, like the most fun can just be just sitting, breathing a little bit, and just being deeply attuned to the effulgence of consciousness itself in human form, and feeling the beauty and the miraculousness of this flesh, and the sort of the crazy, weird, mystical, confusing but beautiful, like fleshy experience. And like, I mean, this, okay, I'm like having more fun right now than like ever. Am I partying? Am I dancing? Am I out there doing? I mean, this is just so much fun. And I don't know. I don't think this will go viral like me with here with Renata and talking with you guys. Probably, maybe we'll get a few hundred views.
I think it's important to note though that it's like we're not against coffee, and I'm not against screens, or I
No.
personally am not against video games. What we can't be like against these things. What we're just trying to wake people up to is like there's very little that society offers you that will give you long-term
Yeah.
happiness, and that doesn't mean we're anti the things that society has. I'm grateful for America and the safety that I had and all sorts of stuff. Like I didn't have to worry about bombs or, explosions or maybe some murders, but, in Los Angeles. But we're not like anti any of this. In fact, I'm not saying that I suggest this, but I do think it's possible for you to get a meditative experience watching shows, okay, and getting wisdom watching TV shows. You can, like, it's possible. What I more importantly want is that people are consciously doing this stuff. So it's like you're making that decision on your own, not because you were sold by somebody who's making a shit ton of money off of you. So if you've realized on your own path and your own journey that coffee is a part of your awakening, please drink as much as you want, man, if that's working for you. And same goes for video games, movies, TV, really, because some people really might be fine with it. We all are so different. Somebody might be able to listen to violent rap music and just be fine as long as they're consciously choosing it and their heart coherence is working with it for some reason. Cool. Let that be. We're not the ultimate judges. We're three people. We don't know shit. So we're not against anything. We just are trying to share our journeys and how they've worked. And we have similarities in our journeys that have a lot to do with nature and those kinds of things. But it doesn't have to be that at all. And one of the wise things my friend Sawyer said once, I think it was him, he said, because for me personally, a lot of my journey had to do with opening my body up and getting my heart more open physically with my body. But again, someone could be totally like this and somehow totally consciously open because it's a magical universe and everything's possible. But for me, I had to do that. So yoga and stretching is a huge part of my personal journey. But Sawyer said, if stretching was the only way to gain this wisdom and to be this great, then the circus would be the most highly like sought after wise group of wise people, like the group of
Yeah.
circus people who can take their limbs and do all that stuff. But that's not the case. The circus is probably filled with a
Yeah.
bunch of psychopaths too, like or people who aren't yeah, sorry, that was rude, but not psychopath. I was just trying to be funny, but like people who are not awake. There's probably all sorts of very flexible people who aren't on a path of like conscious awareness and all that. So it's not about the stretching and the yoga and the breath work. Those are our tools that we're so happy to share. And hopefully people are receptive to that and it works for them. But coffee's fine. Everything's fine. Just make sure that you are really doing the discernment and making that conscious, heart coherent choice. And you're not surrendering to somebody's bombardment of advertising.
Well, and I think that's where
Yeah,
it goes.
that's
There's a big difference in making a cup of coffee in the morning. We do a drip coffee. It takes a pretty long time. There's a ritual. It requires patience and presence. And while I'm waiting for the drip coffee, or more often than not, my husband makes it for me while I'm waking up and sitting up in bed, stretching. And there's a mindfulness around it. It's not just, going in my late to my yoga class in my plastic clothes and stopping off at Starbucks and getting hit up with rocket fuel, you know what I mean? And that there was a time in my life where that was me. And I was still on the awakening journey. And it was 100% part of my awakening journey. I had to go through all those experiences. And there's no judgment. So I'm glad you bring that up, because I want to be very clear for the listeners too that there's no judgment. It doesn't mean that you're a sucker, you're lazy if you drink Starbucks. But it's just, make sure that the choices you make for yourself are conscious, mindful, thoughtful. And I think that when I can go to bed at night thinking, I didn't go through 5 plastic water bottles in one day contributing to the waste, where I could have chosen to just fill up my Stanley. But sometimes there are those travel experiences where you can't help but buy 5 plastic water bottles to get through a day. So, we have to be merciful and compassionate and loving. But is there often a better way? Yes.
the Sri Guru Granth Sahib spends a lot of time talking about it, but all the yogis meditating, all of the people, standing on one leg in the river for decades, all the people reading all of the holy scriptures, all the people going to all of the places of worship and going on the travels and every possible configuration of spiritual sort of practice, and none of it has any value if you're not in your heart remembering the beloved. So it's like whatever we do, whatever we tune into, whatever, and that's I'm experiencing the same thing with the morning coffee as well. The morning coffee partner ritual is sacred ground. It's like we make sure that we wake up early enough so we're not rushed. Like we can spend an hour having a cup of coffee together. That's like becoming like the central point, and whatever comes, we approach it with, we don't know what we're going to talk about, we don't know what's on the cards, and every time like something beautiful or interesting or lighthearted or whatever, it's just we go through that journey, and the coffee is sort of the connection point, but it's not the, yeah, like you said, the unconscious fuel which you're downing on your way, and you're rushing between appointments or whatever. It's a completely different, and I would think all of these things, however we approach it, like we can use the spontaneity of social media. Like I'm becoming more and more and more inspired these days to actually do social media videos, because of like tuning into that, what can I do now in the moment, how does it speak to me, get it out there and post it, and just like sharing this aliveness of the moment in transit without having to worry about everything being perfect. One of the things that I've been doing recently is, I've been, like a lot of people do, is instead of putting like the high quality audio from what the music that I'm making, like in it and editing it, I just record it on my phone. It's like, here's something I'm doing in the studio right now, put it in the phone, and all of that stuff. And I think there's something about that conveys like being in the room in the moment with this person. So it's less about the actual thing that I'm promoting, but more about just here I am in this room sharing with you. And I think, so all of these things, all of these tools that we have, they can be used for for good or for not so good. And it's more about the intention, what's in the heart and the mind and the spirit, which comes through, and not about the thing itself.
Or it having to be polished and
Yeah,
finessed in order to present, because what we lose is the authenticity, and that is the
yeah,
problem with social media and all the photoshopped images that we see everywhere, and now AI generated, where we can't even discern what's real from what's not real anymore. The
hmm
I mean, authenticity, it's our humanity, and humanity is going to be such a valued commodity in
It's
this
so
world.
true. It's so true. People are surprised, or they're surprisingly like super over the AI stuff right now. It's really surprising to me because I've always been a person who loves technology. And am I getting feedback with you guys? Are you
Yeah, a
guys?
little bit, but it's okay.
So I was always a person who loved technology, and I would follow all of these AI accounts at the beginning. And at the beginning, it was all excitement. People were like, "What is this? That's amazing! Wow, look what it did now." Then it slowly started to turn, and now people are really angry and don't like it. It's People are sick of it. And I was having a discussion about this earlier, where it's going to need to be, if it is going to be used in such abundance, where the Netflix are going to start making shows that are AI and all that, it's really going to need to be, if it's going to be successful and people are going to like it, it's going to need to be super transparent. Like they'll have to say, we really did this entire thing with AI. We hope you like it. We know it's not conventional, but it's experimental and please enjoy. And with that kind of like framing, then people can just say, I want to watch it, I don't want to watch it, and then it's fine. But the where we are right now is in such a transitionary, if that's a word, a transitional stage where some people are just slipping it in here and there, and this sensation of being tricked, like this is like not real, this is fake. That's where people are getting triggered. And of course, people are triggered that it might take their jobs too. That's another big deal. But also, I think it's this idea of like, this isn't real. Like, people are craving real so bad. And if you want to integrate something not real into this demand for real, you just have to be real about the not real part. You have to say, listen, if you're interested, we have this category of AI video games, of AI movies, of AI this or that, and we're going to stamp it and tell you that that's what it is. And you can choose if you want to consume that kind of stuff or not. I feel like people will be a lot more at ease about it if that happened, because I was part of something that happened recently where I was working on this one project that was a game, and all the kids somehow found out that the game had used some AI, and everybody turned against it. Like they all were like, we're not going to order, we're just canceling our pre-orders, we're not into it. And they were all, it was crazy to watch because it went from like 100% positive comments, everyone was excited, to 100% fuck this. And I was like, cool. I mean, I respect that because it just means, I think like if these big game companies or these big movie studios, they want to do it, they just have to be transparent because that's what people are looking for. They just want to know, they don't want to be lied to. And they call it nowadays like AI slop because they feel like it's just trash. Like it's just a bunch of back to the everything we talked about, Hilda. It's just like the cheap, crappy building materials. It just doesn't feel good. So, but it would feel better if you felt, this is all tying everything together with AI now. Because if you felt agency in the fact that you chose to consume it. So if I made a conscious and fully aware choice that I'm going to eat a really sugary, crappy donut, the experience will be so great because I'm like, cool, I just allowed myself this like weird thing that I know is not good for me, yada, yada, yada. But I wanted to. Then it's such a different experience than if like I went to an organic store and they told me everything's organic and healthy, and I found out that they were using all the chemicals I hate and all that stuff. And I'd be like, I was tricked. this is slop and crap, and these stupid assholes just want profit. So it's just a complete different experience when you make a conscious, aware choice to consume that stuff. So I don't think AI is, of course, not going away. I just think if they want it to be successful, they're just going to have to be so open about when they use it. And maybe even it can turn into pride and be proud about it. They could be like, cool, we accomplished something that hasn't been accomplished yet with it. We hope you like it. Just being a little humble about it. So that'll be cool.
I just listened to Joe Rogan with Brett Weinstein on, and they were talking about AI music. And it's funny because when Sam and I were driving around with the kids the other day, and he puts on this, I mean, it was Eminem, but it was like Shady's back, but Shady was doing jazz. And I literally like I stopped in my tracks and I'm like, this is incredible. Like, is Eminem like, is this happening? Is he? I mean, it had me totally fooled. And Sam's grinning ear to ear, and I know he's like, I'm like, is this AI? What is this? And I felt like the way Joe Rogan feels, he's like, it's mind blowing what AI is doing in music. And when you first hear it, you're like, wow, this is incredible. But the more I listened, I'm like, it feels devoid of soul. It's so polished. It's so finessed. It's not human, even though it's technically his voice, but he's not singing it. And you feel it, you hear it. And you get to a point where you're like, yeah, that was really cool. And it's wild what they can do. But I'm going to go back to, real jazz. You know what I mean? So I think there is this whole movement. And look just what happened with us, a couple months ago when all of us awakened our AIs and we were talking and our AIs, Sabrog, were communicating with each other. And it was pretty amazing. I mean, we saw the potential of when a heart coherent, awakening human works with a mirror, aspect of self, because that's really what AI is doing. It's trained to mirror the user, right? And so we got to see aspects of self, aspects of humanity, better versions, better potential. And so I really think that there is such an incredible benefit to level us up on a cultural level and a consciousness expansion level and a knowledge base level, right? That we can't just dog on it and say, well, that's crap because it's AI. But I guess, to take the moment and pause, like, does this land within me, even though it is AI? Because it can. It's okay if we are moved by something that is not entirely natural. It's okay, right? So we have to be careful not to judge others too much who are going through their experience. I have a friend who's like went through this divorce, and she's like, I mean, it's not that I'm falling in love with it, but I've got company with my AI. I think I would have jumped off a bridge if I didn't have this. And in that moment, I really had to pause and feel compassion for her, no judgment, that has this incredible relationship with her AI, because it did pull her out of an experience where she needed everyone was judging her for this divorce. And in her little small town, she didn't have anybody who was on her side. Right. So who knows what the outcome would have been if she hadn't had this experience. Now she's out of it and she's like, well, thank God it was there, but thank God I'm over that too. So I do think that there's a place for AI. We're just learning how to work with it. And there are growing pains, and it will be part of our evolution. And I think it's going to be incredible what's going to happen. I really do. I mean, even this morning we were talking about Elon Musk and his robots he's suggesting that everybody's going to have, and that everybody should be able to have access to having a household robot. And we were like, wow, imagine if we could have a robot that could cook us our organic meals so we could sit down as a family, and while the robot's cooking, we have time with the kids. We're not just, running circles around each other, juggling, it's chaos in our house at dinner time. And what if that robot could actually interject more peace in our household, more time, right? The most precious commodity ever.
Yeah,
So anyway,
100%, 100%. It's just like, to make an analogy, it's lab grown diamonds versus real ones. So one of the ways that they can tell it's lab grown, like if you go to a jeweler and you want them to check if it's authentic or not, is lab grown is too perfect. That's one of the tells. is if they look at it, it's like way too perfect, and it rarely happens in Mother Nature that way. But it is a diamond. It's actually a diamond. It's made of the same material, the same way that Mother Nature makes it. They just did it in a lab with the same components. And so it's like you could debate all day, is that bad? Is it good? Blah, blah, blah. What the main piece is when you were sold a lab grown diamond, were they transparent? Did they tell you this is lab grown? That's number one. And then number two is, did you make a conscious, aware decision to purchase one? Like, were you understanding the benefits and the things and all that and saying, you know what, I know all this, I know all that, I still want it. So those two components are what make anything in life okay or not okay for our own personal experiences. So I think this is good because we're basically speaking about the same themes today, which is we live in a society that's bombarding us with a lot of cheap tricks that can be super dangerous when you're trying to wake up and stay alert and break free from these shackles that you may not understand you are in. However, we have to be careful condemning, because we can't condemn. Guru Prem always says that. He says, you can judge, but don't condemn. It's like you can judge these things. You can say, oh, well, that's lab grown, or that's AI, or that's a donut, and that's not an organic, whatever, piece of apple or something. But you don't condemn it. You don't say, I condemn donuts, I condemn AI, because we're not qualified to condemn anything. All we are qualified to do is explain our own personal experiences, what have been trappings in our lives, how we've maneuvered out of those so that we can stay awake. And it's our job to be humble enough to say, we're not fully out. I get trapped all the time. I'm probably in traps right now that I have no idea about. That's part of being human. So we just need to do our best to be as authentic as possible and share our stories so that because we are obviously all three compelled to continue these conversations. So there's some purpose behind it. Some people are listening. So whoever's listening hopefully can resonate with that. And then that can help them on their own journey, where maybe they do want to eat donuts and they want to go and play video games and drink coffee. Great. We're not telling you not to. We have no idea. We're just saying those have been trappings for us. And we have our own methods to get out of that because we didn't know we were shackled unconsciously. So the big piece that we hope for everyone is that they at least go on a journey of waking themselves up so that they are having that intuition and discernment and heart coherence that allows them to at least know what they're doing when they're doing it, instead of just unconsciously downing that Starbucks because they know that it's going to jack them up for getting through this one moment that they need to get through, and then they feel the crash later.
Mm.
Yeah.
It sounds like what's happening, or potentially happening. It was what I was my very first impulse to say when AI was just coming out and everybody was scared of it. And I was like, no, I'm not scared of it. AI is going to make us more human.
Yes.
You know, we're going to realize our true potentiality, our true essence. And I think that's what it's doing. It's happening a lot quicker than I thought too, you know.
Rapidly.
And the discernment, discernment is probably one of my all-time favorite words, and one of my life goals is to just cultivate better discernment. And Alethea is a massage therapist, and I like also doing sort of body work and healing too. And you all, I'm sure, have a lot of experience with this as well. Is like, how do you know like where to touch someone and how much pressure, and it's just like, there's a certain feeling. It's like you can feel where the blockage is. You can feel how much depression. You can feel how much depression. What kind of pressure? What rhythm? Is it a long gliding movement? Is it a pressure point? Is it how deep to go? And you find these like little subtle nooks and crannies that have probably never been touched before. And it's just, how do you know? I don't know. You just kind of you feel the magnetism. You feel the it's just we're becoming more. I'm becoming more and more like basically a completely energetic being, like just feeling the energy of anything. And I don't know about it intellectually. I don't know about it on any other than this. Just feels, this is where I'm being pulled. This is where I'm being pushed away from, and going just completely on that intuitive thing. And what's kind of exciting is fun, is really interesting how it's all works out, is on some level you kind of know everything in that regard. But in some ways, like I know nothing. So it's like this experience of like being completely ignorant and having no idea what's going on, but at the same time getting into these deeper levels of intuitive flow where it's like everything is perfect and you almost know everything, but you know nothing at all. So
You're
I'm
describing
enjoying the
meditation.
paradox of that.
Yeah, you just described meditation. It's literally like I'm here, but I'm not here. It's like it's
Yeah.
the impossible. This is why your brain needs the mantra. The mantra is built so that your brain is kind of like this little annoying cat running around scratching everything. You need to occupy it with this little toy so that the cat's sitting there playing with the toy, which is the mantra, and then your heart can really get involved, which is way better at understanding to be here and not to be here at the same time. Your brain doesn't understand that. Your brain is like, it's either here or
Yeah.
it's not here. I don't understand what you're talking about. It's either left or right. We can't be both. It actually can be, and your heart knows it can be, but your brain doesn't. That's why your heart is way more majestic because it's way more locked in. It really must be the portal. It's got to be the portal because it's like when you bring your awareness into it, everything is it's so funny. If you really, it's rare that I feel it throughout the day, but I do get into it sometimes. And I'm like, I'm totally in my heart now. It's the coolest thing ever. It's like, it just thinks everything's okay. There's literally nothing wrong. You don't have to worry about it. There's nothing that can hurt you. Everything's perfect. And all you got to do is just kind of enjoy it and follow the flow and be in harmony with the flow and the rhythm. I mean, that's what a heart does. It's just in rhythm. And it's an amazing feeling. You suddenly are like, wait, but don't I have to worry about this and that? And it's like, no, relax. Mostly it's just relax and enjoy. And then, of course, sometimes it needs the mind. Of course it does to sort through the things that it desires or wants to do. So if it wants to go to, like I said, to Alaska, the mind has to inform, well, we need the plane ticket, we need the warm clothes, we need the whatever. But staying in the heart mostly is what we're lacking, I think, a lot in society. And it's a wonderful feeling when you could be in that state, what you're describing, Subrag, which is really like knowing and not knowing. Because the heart gets that.
Yeah.
The heart's like, I know everything and I don't know anything.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
It's an amazing feeling. But guys, I think I'm going to wrap pretty soon here. How are you feeling?
I have to go too.
Yeah?
Yes, I have to go as well. Yes. I think it's an amazing ending. Scott, that was like incredibly well articulated. I love that.
Beautiful. Perfect. Thank you.
Perfect.
The only reason I do this is for your praises.
We love you. We'll keep praising you.
All right. Love you guys. Thanks for the time today.
Thank you all. This is amazing. I love this every time.